Lots of changes going on over there and lots of growth, even though you have been in this leadership role for a long time. And the organization, when you merged, how many years was the organization you were running in existence? 100
was founded in 1891. So and we merged in 2017.
So whatever that is, lots of years off the top of my head. But there's an evolution with each organization. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. How do you think about your organization now as it's growing and changing and evolving?
I love that question. There's a resource that I really like. It is a book called Navigating the Organizational Life Cycle. Paul Connelly is the author. Mm-hmm. And in that, there are a lot of models, but this model makes a lot of sense to me. If you picture, and I won't use my arms to show it, but if you picture the first half of a bell-shaped curve. So when an organization is starting, they are at startup. As they come up the curve, so it's the development and more sophistication of that organization, they use the term adolescent. And mm-hmm. when you get to the top of the curve, your organization is mature. Now, that sounds like a great place to be, but you can't actually stay and not be continuing to change and upgrade to be relevant. So when you hit that mature spot, once you have been there for a little while, you are either going to start stagnating and potentially move off into becoming defunct or becoming irrelevant, or you're going to have to swing back. So we'll circle down at the bottom, swing back to somewhere on that curve going up, somewhere with that adolescent piece, because you're adding a new program, or you are certainly merging or acquiring, a lot of different things that your organization can do to start there again. And it's really important to think about where your organization is on that curve. I find that very helpful to me. It's also really important as a leader to know what space is your best space on that curve. And by that, I mean, I would be dreadful at startup of an organization. It is not my thing. I couldn't do it. And so me taking a job like that or trying to lead that would be a bad match. I also wouldn't be great at the mature piece. It is very important to just know where you belong. And so if someone is at a mature organization, they need to be really solid at running things the way they are, and then thinking about opportunities. And maybe when the opportunity comes, moving out so someone else can do it. My sweet spot is in that middle spot. So we're doing something different. It's a little murky out there. We are people who follow the rules. That is my quote. You're absolutely right. But knowing them and figuring out where that is for your organization to continue to move you up that bell-shaped curve, if you will. One of the things I like about the book, at the towards the end of the book, there are sections that describe each of the main capacities. So leadership capacity, governance capacity, all of the types of capacities that are important for an organization. And that's a really interesting part. But the part I like best is there are descriptors, say, of leadership capacity. What does leadership capacity look like if you are in that startup spot? What does leadership capacity look like if you are in the adolescent or the mature or becoming defunct or starting over? And so for me, it was easy to look at wherever my organization was along that continuum, and I could look at the next box, the next description, and know where we should be headed. And so it was really like a roadmap for me. It's one of the things I like about the book. The other part, I've started really thinking about people in that same organization, and not as an individual, but as a team. So my team, for example, I have a fair number of people who would all fall in that adolescent, let's do something different. I got to be doing something different. And I have one person who really is well suited for mature. And none of them are good or bad, but that person probably looks at the rest of the people on the team and thinks, for God's sakes, can you just stop for a minute? Mm-hmm. And I've said to them sometimes, I said, imagine if we had a bunch of people on the team who are all mature, and you had one person who was that, always the adolescent bringing something new, and the rest of the team would look and say, can you just rest for a minute? Mm-hmm. But how, your team makeup, where your organization is, where your sweet spot is as a leader, and what is the makeup of your team. I find this book and that model really helpful for thinking about all those things.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I can relate because we're like startup,
Yes.
I don't know. I feel like every week we go from adolescent to, youth, adolescent to youth, every week it's, something different, and different people and personalities, whether it's, where they're at in their careers, or where they're at in the comfort of that particular job, or maybe just their particular personalities. I mean, some people just get really comfortable with knowing exactly what's going on and that level of predictability, and other people get a little stir crazy. So it's interesting when you look to hire people and where you're at within your organization. For example, for me, I know I would struggle to retain people that really were, you know, they couldn't handle change. If they
Right.
were really,
Right.
really on edge or uncomfortable with constant change, they probably wouldn't work out so well here. But it is rather exhausting for some of us, even if I'm the one that's constantly, ruffling things up. Hey, we're going to do something different. Even me, it's like, why can't I just sit still for a minute? But I think that's really interesting too, so I meet so many founders of nonprofits, and they're really good at the new ideas, the visionaries, the creators, right? And this is something that I've realized over the last few years, that the creators, the visionary people, are not necessarily the get the stuff doneers, right? They
Right.
come up
Yeah.
with all the ideas, but they're not necessarily one that's going to cross the finish line. And so sometimes within organizations, I could see where there would be a situation where founder, like, I'm going to get the thing up, I'm going to get it going, I'm going to get the program launched, I'm going to get the mission out there. And then as an organization might become a little bit more mature, it might be better suited for a different type of person to step in and kind of take on the leadership beyond that. So
Right.
I can
Which
see
is,
that would
it's
apply.
certainly hard for leaders, but I think a really important observation. You're 100% right as it relates to founders or anywhere on that spectrum. Because if
Mhm.
you're mature is a great thing, and it is steady and it is going for the long haul.
Mhm.
Great for the people who really love that. It wouldn't probably work for you. You are definitely great in startup, having known
Yeah.
you since you started up, and that's probably your sweet spot.
Well, it's kind of funny. Yeah. My business partner, he always says, I don't know if I want to be a CEO. I'm more of a right-hand person, kind of, you take the lead and you make all of the ideas and changes, and I'll execute them. I said, great. That's perfect match.
Good.
We all need those people, right?